This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
I want to talk about your Cowboys career.
Okay.
We kind of talked about it last time we were hanging out, but kind of give everyone, like the listeners, like what happened. Okay, so you made it on the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to leave it alone there. You go.
Yeah. So grew up playing football ever since I was a little pup. Started in second grade. Had those dreams of making it in the NFL and making it big, just like you do. And that was one of the things that grounded me. So a lot of the decisions I made, reasons I didn't get in trouble growing up was because of that goal, because I made it real. It wasn't just a lofty things like, I'm going to be an astronaut. Like it was something that actually I took to heart and made a goal, made it a priority. So played in high school, grew up in Mesa, Arizona, played at Mountain View. For those of you, go Toros.
Yeah.
Played there.
Boo, go Lone Peak.
Had a good run there. Played with some good football dudes. A lot of guys you'd know here. I played with John Beck and Max Hall, two BYU quarterbacks. So we had a good run. Got picked up, signed a scholarship at University of Texas El Paso with Mike Price after his whole thing at Alabama. He signed us there. Had a great college career. Had an opportunity to sign with the Cowboys. I got picked up. You get rookie camp, you go there, you have the OTAs, you have all that kind of stuff that's mandatory practice.
You remind me, were you drafted?
I wasn't. I
undrafted, right?
Free agent.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. So signed my deal with them, got there. Eyes got opened up real big because now this is big boy football. There's some people there that have perfected the art of football.
Here's the thing, though. When you signed that contract, how damn good did that feel?
It was a little bit overwhelming because how it works, you go and for weeks, you're on display. You're a piece of meat. Like you would be surprised at what they measure. I mean, we're talking your handprint. They want to know everything. They even called my freshman coach from ninth grade. And they're like, you had a wrist injury in ninth grade. And I was like, I did. And they're like, telling me about it. I'm like, well, if you say so, like Coach Malazgar told you that. I was like, I haven't talked to that guy in 20 years. Yeah. So they do their research. It's an investment. But when you're there, it is eye-opening. It's exciting to see, just specimens, people that are the one percenters. Yeah. And it could be overwhelming or you can view it as an opportunity, which is what I did. Yeah. Viewed it as an opportunity, but it was exciting.
Did they give you a locker and all that kind of stuff?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. My locker room was right next to Miles Austin, which that was interesting. He's an interesting guy. He loved his, we'll say, cosmetics. He got shipped from all over from Europe. I was like, where's that lip balm from? He's like, oh, this is from France. I'm like, well, cool for you, man. Yeah. This is from Walmart. Yeah. So interesting, but it was exciting. And the whole work up to it, like interviewing agents, going and, learning first time how to sell. You got to sell yourself. You got to go talk with general managers, offensive coordinators. I played special teams as well to be a deep snapper. So you interview with these special teams coordinators at these senior bowls and, stuff like that. It's a world. Like you understand really quick why it's such a huge money-making industry. And that's what it is. It's a business. Yep. People don't understand that. And everybody thinks everyone's a millionaire that played in the NFL because they only hear about these huge contracts. And I'm like, yeah, that's about, 3 or 4 dudes on each team making those big contracts. The rest of us are just average dudes playing the game.
No, you're 100% right. That's the thing with the NFL is years ago, I tried to put a fund together with a bunch of NFL guys, right? And like a private equity fund, and it was going to kind of be educational, but it was also like help protect their money, and then it was also go do good deals. And I've always loved NFL guys, right? There's a time in my life where I thought I might be one of them. But when I got into it with these guys, I was like, shit, none of you guys make any money. Like a lot of them were having a hard time scraping $50K together to put into this fund. And I'm like, and some of them had bigger contracts. They should have been have some more money, but they also have massive spending problems. And then I started really diving into like the NFL contracts because I was like, okay, if I'm going to do NFL guys, who am I looking at? And it's very rare. I mean, because people think, what's the average? What's the vet minimum? Do you remember? Like 1.3?
Yes.
So you got to play for 4 years before you get guaranteed 1.3. And by the way, once you go 4 years, if you're not worth 1.3, you're cut because they're not going to do the vet minimum and do this not worth it.
Well,
right?
You can be cut any time. So the
I know that,
NFL is the only thing that's different, though. It's not guaranteed contracts. So these guys you talk about, I mean, that's like right now, Russell Wilson. Sorry.
Oh, Russell, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, the Denver guy.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
now he's, I guess, going to the Steelers. He wasn't really good for the last couple of years. But, they're eating a ton of money on that contract, but, because of his guaranteed contract. But that's the thing. If you can go back and Google, and that's what's sad about it, is you hit the nail on the head. You take a lot of these dudes that have this, these talents of playing football. You take them, you pluck them out of small town USA or, the ghettos or these types of things. And that's their route. That's the only thing they have. And when they get out, they're bringing everybody with them, grandma, mom, auntie, cousin, everybody's coming with them. And they get into these habits. Perfect example is when I was there, you got your signing bonus, right? Well, that's all that's guaranteed of your contract. The rest of it, most of it's not guaranteed. And one guy in particular, we get our checks. Like you said, I was on top of the world, I was like, woo, I'm rich coming from being broke as a joke in college. Yeah. And he comes pulling up the next day and he's got this Escalade with Louis Vuitton interior, 17 TV screens. He was telling me how many speakers, 8 subwoofers. And I was like, man, I asked him, I was like, dude, why 17 screens? You can't even watch 17 screens. He goes, because I can. It's like, that's an answer. Yeah. So then I asked him, I'm like, hey, I was doing the math. I know how much, his contract was, how much was guaranteed. He spent every bit of his signing bonus on that vehicle. And I was trying to explain to him, like, have you ever heard of depreciation of assets? Yeah. I was like, that you'll never get the money back out of that thing. That's a terrible investment. Yeah. But they don't understand those type of things. Yeah. And that's why if you go back, if you just Google, how long players are bankrupt after the time that they're done playing, it's sad. It is very, very sad.
That was wild, right?
Yeah, it's wild. and you understand that why. You understand, if you go, everything's out there, everything can be found. It was interesting. If you want to have your mind blown, go back and look at in the past what Shaquille O'Neal was paying just on his monthly just to cable. Right. With all this, everybody that was on there, it was surprising just to see how many people are on people's Verizon bills. Yeah. You're talking to guys in the locker room and, they've got crazy 17, 18 people on the Verizon plan. I'm like, why? You know what I mean? Like you got to take care of you and you got to invest in it, but it's hard for them not to live in the moment. And it was hard for me to not live in the moment, Yeah. So going back to what you were talking about is, I was super excited to sign that contract and be a part of like this elite class. You know what I mean?
How long was your first contract?
So it was 3 year.
It was a 3 year contract?
Yep.
Is that pretty standard?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the first one. And then after that, you can go up to 4 or 5 with an option, but most people want to have that first contract smaller so that you can get paid on that second contract. Yeah. And also the biggest part of that is then you get the pension, that kind of stuff, and you can get set up for, long term with that. So, with that, it was exciting. It was, you felt like you're part of a higher like fraternity, because I love college. Like I watch Saturday more than Sunday. I love before this NIL stuff, kids that played college, they played for the right reasons. They played for their locker room. They played for their buddies. They played for the pride of the school. Yeah. They played for all those right reasons and they left it on, they just did it right. Now you got kids that are, playing for Alabama. Next season, they're transferring to LSU. 5 years ago, that would have never happened. Those kids would have gone to the grave instead of having to go put on that jersey. Yeah. So the game's changing, but at that time it was something fun. It was something exciting. Yeah.
So how long were you on the team?
So we can dive into that. So got hurt early. So you can go back to when during practice, a tornado hit the practice facility. Yeah. It was wild.
So that was in your first season then?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That was really, really, really quick. So that happened in the middle of practice. People think, practice facility. It's not a little pop-up tent. We're talking a huge, real building, real facility that had, like we called it, the bird's nest, where we had people up there filming. They had break rooms and things like that. Like it's a big facility with large rafters and stuff. I mean, big enough that we could do kickoff and punt and, field goal posts in there, full turf. We're in the middle of practice. We're doing sevens, and I was in the slot. And all of a sudden, like, those big old lights that are huge lights are like start swaying and like hitting. And I mean, it gets your attention, but nobody wants to look around and act like they're the puss that's scared to, know? So of course you're looking like this and everyone's looking at each other like what's going on? And coach is like, pay attention. I'm like, we're in a war zone. What's going on here? It's supposed to be practice. And then all of a sudden, dude, this just cannon type thing just boom went off, and just the whole top of this building just gets ripped off. Like King Kong just ripped it apart. All hell breaks loose. I was actually on the left side in the slot. So I look at the left side, and everything just starts coming like down. I didn't look to my back because I wouldn't have. One of those big support beams had broken off and swung down, caught me right in the back of the helmet, lifted me up, slammed me into the turf.
Jeez.
Gone, like knocked out.
Do you remember it, or did you?
I do.
Okay,
I remember
cool.
that part. And then I remember getting woken up. So one of my buddies came over, and then the adrenaline kicks in, and nothing's hurt. You're Superman, right? Adrenaline kicks in, and you feel like you're in a combat zone. So we took off running, and there's like rain's coming sideways into your face mask. It's like so loud. People are screaming. It's just water everywhere. It's just crazy. And it's like kick in, and you're just like, I'm Superman. I can get out of here. So we get out and we go back to the main building, and then we realize like half the people are not here. They're trapped underneath all this stuff. So we form up a couple of like teams. We go out, and we found some pretty gnarly things. Some people that were hurt, and there's a lot of people that got hurt in that facility that collapsed. A couple guys got paralyzed. A couple guys lost the use of limbs.
Oh, that bad?
Yeah.
Were these players or?
Both. Combination of players. A lot of them were coaches and media, because there's a lot of people that come to these practices. Yeah. So a lot of that kind of stuff. Not so much a lot of players got injured, more of staff and people that were around, just wrong place, wrong time type of thing. Yeah. So that's what happened. And then we continued. So that kind of shut down that portion of practice. We continued to practice, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse to the point that, I physically couldn't do what they were asking me to do. I couldn't even look over my head to catch a ball that was over my shoulder. Couldn't pop and drive. Every time I would hit, it would just send like fire down the back of my neck and into my hands.
What was injured? Was it your spinal cord?
Yeah. So yeah. C3 and C5, mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so what was happening is it was pushing on the nerve sleeve. So much inflammation was there. Every time they would hit that and it would compress more, it would just send fire. Like these two fingers on both hands are like heavier fat feeling.
Yeah.
Like you ever slept on your hand, mm-hmm. and then it comes back, and then you got that tingling that just is like the worst. And then it kind of gets heavy and fat, and you feel like you got a heavy hand.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Gotcha.
All the time. So I did a bunch of rehab. We did some injections that were supposed to alleviate some of that swelling and that inflammation. Had to get a couple second opinions, because that's how it works. You have your players association, then you get your team docs, and then second opinions. One of those guys was phenomenal. So I flew out to LA, went in to meet with this doc. And at this time, you still think that you're untouchable. You still think you're Clark Kent, right? Like hard work has overcome a lot of things in my life, right? Just I could outwork somebody, whether he was bigger, stronger, faster. Yeah. So I still had that mentality. So I walk in, guy's a really cool dude. And there was another ex-NFL dude that was in the room. He gets up and he walks back and just kind of walks back there like miserable, like life is just hard. Couldn't place him. So I go back and I'm sitting down talking with this doc, and I'm like, hey, who is that guy? And he tells me who it was. And I was like, no way, dude, 13-year Pro Bowler. Awesome. And he goes, kid, that's the quality of life that medicine can give him. I can't help him. Yeah. He goes, let's talk about you. And I was like, let's talk about me. Let's get this out of the way. How are you going to fix me? He goes, well, let's get to that. He goes, what do you want out of life? And I'm like, easy. I want to, make millions of dollars, help my mom and dad out. You know what I mean? I want to set my kids up. I want to make everybody know who I am. I want to make a name for myself. I want to be a Pro Bowler. Like just the stupid stuff that you say when you're that old, right? And he goes, no, what do you want out of life? I was like, what do you mean? That is life. He goes, no. He goes, you have a kid, right? I'm like, yeah, I got a little guy. He's not even a year old. He goes, tell me about that. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, I want to be a great dad. I want to be a T-ball coach. I want to be there to teach him, Pee-wee football. I want to be there when, he throws his first touchdown and his first start in high school. I want to be there when he signs his, college, declaration of, where he's going to go and all that kind of stuff. Right. And he goes, there we're talking. He goes, that's what I'm talking about. He goes, sounds like you want to be involved. You want to be hands-on. You want to be that guy. And I'm like, yeah, I do. He goes, can you do that from a wheelchair? I was like, what? He goes, specifically, being a quadriplegic? Can you do those things? Can you accomplish those to the level you're talking about with the passion you're talking about right now? And I go, no, I can't. He goes, well, kid. And so then he puts my MRI up and like all my x-rays and stuff. He goes, you're one hit away. He goes, I can't fix you. I can help you. And I'm like, and that hit me real heavy. And all of a sudden he goes, kid, my advice to you is walk away. Go be that guy. Go be that dad. Go be that influence on your kids and your community and that kind of stuff. So take that passion and use it. And that was the first time that it just like hit and everything just like got taken. And like my emotions came in, dude. I started bawling like for the first time. And so got out of there on my way to the airport and I called my agent and I'm like, we're done. And he goes, all right. So of course you're not going to pass the team physical, and he told me that, and that guy broke it down. Like he's like, listen, you're one car accident away. You're one, wakeboarding, like hard crash or, things like that you're going to do with life away at this point from being in that life and being in that situation. He goes, so he gave me all the life skills to like stay healthy, stay strong, stay lean, stuff like that to help. And that's when I realized, I had my priorities wrong, in life. And so, changed me completely, changed the trajectory of where I was going and what I was doing. Changed my look on a lot of things. And a lot of people are like, oh, was that just so devastating? It was. And like, I didn't watch Sunday football for years because I was bitter. Like the guy that came and replaced me, he ended up playing for like 5 or 6 years, but he wasn't as good. Yeah. And the fact is that you never got to accomplish and like let the world know, like there's always like a little bit of self, like I didn't get to show the world really what I was capable of. Yeah. And that's hard. That's hard to overcome sometimes. And there's not, where else am I going to find that arena? Like you can't go back,
Well, the thing that's cool about it though, is I'd like to point out to everyone listening, for you to be in that position, you are like elite, like wildly elite. And so even your mindset, you're like, these are the things that I want. Like, that's not surprising to me, at least. I think it's one of those things where it's like you have to be in that mindset to like really achieve where you're at. And the crazy thing with you, where I feel like I have a lot of empathy, is like you are so close from running out of the tunnel and catching a touchdown. You know what I mean? And way closer than I ever got, way closer than almost anyone will ever get. And then you did have to make that decision where it's like, no, I'm going to choose my family. And not only were you choosing your family, I know you had one boy, you were choosing your future family. Where you are right now, you're actually choosing this life and probably not even realizing it. Does that seem accurate?
Yeah, 100%. And then you factor in like the human element of it. Like people here, they don't know. Like you just hit on. Like people at work, the water cooler talk. The guys that are like, oh, I used to bench 400. You never benched 400 pounds. Like, oh, I was getting recruited in high school by all the D1 schools. Yeah. Blew out your knee, huh? Really? And they're like, oh, meniscus tear. I'm like, that's a 2-week injury.
Damn, I was waiting to see a 5'5" guy out there on the field. Yeah.
But then here, like to tell your story, like I don't even talk about it. Like I haven't talked about football like this in years. I just don't, because it kind of got annoying because people that don't know, like, oh, UTEP. Well, they didn't know that we were a top 25 and that we were awesome. And that we went to bowl game after bowl game and set dudes to the league year after year. But had I continued to stay committed to UCLA, I would have not gone to one bowl game. They were terrible the 4 years that I played. But the fact is, it's name recognition. People are like, oh, you played at UCLA. Oh, you played. You know what I mean? Like guys here that were preferred walk-ons at BYU. And they're like, oh, I played at BYU. Like, well, according to Google, you really never played, but they have this clout because everybody recognizes BYU, right? They recognize, that. And so it's like a different level of accomplishment. And the fact that, I made it, like you said, but did I really make it? In my eyes, I didn't, because I didn't get to accomplish. I didn't finish what I started off for. I didn't finish what in my mind was my ceiling in the third grade. Mm-hmm. I didn't make, the millions of dollars. I didn't take care of my mom and dad. I didn't help them, knowing that they weren't going to have a retirement. I didn't accomplish what I wanted to for the first time in my life. And I couldn't go back, and hard work wasn't going to help me. So I had to find something different. I had to do something different. And for me to accept that was the hardest thing. That acceptance didn't come for a long time. I was bitter. I didn't talk about it. I didn't want to talk about it. And even to this point, I still don't talk about it with a lot of people because they're not going to understand. They're not going to understand that, even though it was a no-name college at, you know what I mean? And still not amazing. It was at the time. I helped make it amazing when we were there. Double overtime against Texas Tech, you know what I mean? Playing, the big schools, doing that, being ranked in the top 25, playing on ESPN, that stuff, and playing in the big stadiums. Like, we did all those things. Yeah. The fact is that, like, Oregon paid us a couple $1 million not to have to play us. Like, we were there. But people don't know that because it's not, oh, you didn't play at the U? No, I didn't play at the U. Oh, you didn't play at BYU? No, I didn't play at BYU. Oh, Utah State. No, I didn't play at Utah State. So, I don't know why I went on that little tangent, but like that right there was part of the whole thing that you talked about of like acceptance and moving on. And it was hard to see the big picture of, like, would I be a different person? Hell yeah, I'd be a different person. Would I love that person? I don't know. I like the person that is sitting right here. Yeah. That's accomplished a lot of things outside of that. But yeah.
Let's jump into that part of your life. I'm glad we got football out of the way. Good. I just think it's awesome. But like, one of the things I love about you the most is how good of a dad you are. And saying you're a good dad is really vanilla, right? So I want to dive in what makes you a good dad. Like, for me to say that, why do you think I'm saying that? Like, what makes you a good dad?
That I take pride in it, because I kind of disagree with you on like people saying that you're a good dad. I don't think that there's a higher compliment, right? Because there are a lot of guys that just coast through that, take it for granted, do the bare minimum, not knowing, being a dad is not like a 9 to 5. You don't just come home from work and be like, hey, I checked the box. You got a roof over your head. You got shoes on your feet and you got food on the table. Like, no, that's when dad kicks in and you spend those quality times. You make those memories. You do what it takes. And people don't realize, like, being a dad to me is the scariest and the hardest thing. I would much rather go and cleat up right now and have to play in front of 80,000 people on ESPN, than what it takes. Like, what is being a dad? Well, I got 4 boys. I got to make these boys into young men and leaders. I got to make them into husbands and great spouses. I got to make them into, dads. That's a tall order. And there's not a one size fits all. It's not like I can just watch your podcast and get the information. Right. And then I got to make my own twist on it. Right. And then on top of that, I got to always be like ebbing and flowing, because of the world around me. Yeah. Like, do I need them to explain, what's a marriage? No, that's my role and that's my job. And the outside world's trying to influence that. I don't want them to be dad, The news shouldn't be teaching my kids life. That's my job.
Absolutely.
And you roll all that into it, it's overwhelming. It could be.
Yeah.
So I take pride in that. I love being a dad. Like, that is like my thing. Like, people are like, what makes you tick? And like, the first thing is like, dude, my priorities are simple. My wife has to be number 1, my family number 2, everything else can be 3. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that 3 can fluctuate depending on where we're at in life and what we're doing, and what our priorities are, and how we're going to get there.
Yeah.
But so I recognize that. And like, I've given you props a lot because, you're making great strides. I think it's safe to say that you take pride in being a dad, wouldn't you say?
100%, yeah.
So
it's a defining characteristic for me. Yeah.
Okay. Like, what are your top 3 things that you would be proud of as a dad?
I'm proud that my kids feel safe all the time. I feel like they feel safe to be creative, to be themselves. I really, really try and foster an environment where they have opinions and I have opinions and they both exist at the same time. Even though I know they're young and, their opinions are very moldable at this stage, right? But I also take a lot of pride in that my kids, when I'm around, they want to be around me. It's kind of like a data point with me where it's like, if I felt like my kids were pulling away, it's like a sign to me that I really got to like start pouring into them a little bit more. But they've also, to be fair, they've never done that. My kids are always like, we watched a movie last night and 2 of them are on me, right? Like, it's not like they're sitting next to me, they're on their phones. Like, they just want to be with dad all the time. And I take a lot of pride in that. I'm also hitting the stage in life where mom's got to taken them, little kids, and now my kids, they're 14, 12, and 8, and now it's time for dad to give them a little bit more horsepower, where it's like, when you commit to something, you're going to go all the way. You're not just going to participate, we're going all the way. You know, and when you're going to do something, you're going to do it 100% every single time. And that's going to have people that you want to be. And I'm really trying to push that with each one of my kids. Like my oldest daughter, we're about to put her in jiu-jitsu again. And she wants to be physical, and she's really excited about it. And I think part of being a really good dad is to stand behind your children and just push them, right? And kind of guide them and pivot with them, but also be a driving force. Like, no, you can do this. Like when shit gets hard, we can still make this happen. What about you?
The respect side, like I want them to know that respect is earned, not given. I want them to understand that, you know, you have to be respectful to moms, you know what I mean? Women, that kind of stuff. And go out there and take pride in what you do. Like those are the two main things that I try to push in these kids. If you're going to do something, you don't do things half-assed. You commit to something, you accomplish the goal, and you commit to it, and, you know, exceed people's expectations. We don't ever, do the bare minimum. And my thing with my kids is I always do check-ins, and I'm like, hey, my job is to make you the best version of you. So I see your ceiling here. And at no point am I ever going to lower that expectation or that ceiling because it's difficult or it's hard. But I'm going to give you all the tools and the resources to be able to feel confident that you can attain the ceiling that we both see, that mom and I and those around you. And we have check-ins to talk about, you know, what are hard things for them to overcome, and what resources do they need to be able to get there? You know, whether that's more leadership in school or, you know, on the field, or if it's being more, you know, kind, you know, or understanding. You know, those are things that a lot of people don't understand, you know, that to be a good man doesn't mean you have to be a Neanderthal and just be tough all the time. Yes, you've got to be tough, and you got to stand up for what you believe in and stand up for those that can't stand up for themselves. But at the same time, you got to be kind. You got to be respectful. You got to be loving at times. And I'm great. That's what Jenna does for me, is she's helped me in that arena so much. Because before, and growing up, you know, Big John did the best he could. My dad, you know, he's a big old Paul Bunyan dude. And we didn't talk feelings in our home. But Jenna sits us down. She makes us, you know, crack open that, you know, M&M and get to the core, you know, and talk about that, which was not easy. It was always just roll up your sleeves, outwork people, like I said earlier, and find a way to win. That's not always the case. And with kids and with my 4 boys, you know, that's something that is important now, because she's opened that up in me. Yeah. And so I try to open that up in my kids and talk and have them express that. But at the same time, know who they are, stand up for who they are, that kind of stuff. Be respectful, you know, take pride in everything you do. Yeah. And sometimes it's difficult.
How do you and Jenna mix duties? Or how do you separate duties? How do you pick which one does what?
We kind of have our arenas, and then we don't really have duties. It's kind of just see a need, meet a need, right? There's things that she does better, but we'll still help out. Like, let's be honest, she is so much better at cleaning than I'll ever be, and us boys, but we'll give it a good old college try. Yeah. Of course, it's not going to be as good as she does it, but we help out. Yeah. See a need, meet a need, you know, see the trash can full, take the damn trash out. You know what I mean? Don't wait till mom or dad has to ask you to do it. And it's hard, but we do that. I do more of the sports arena stuff. That's just in my wheelhouse. Yeah. It fills my buckets instead of feels like a task. Mm-hmm. And for Jenna to support all the time and do that, that's a big ask for her. You know, she's got 4 boys that are constantly in something. It's never ending. Yeah. You know, you go from baseball to, you know, football to basketball to golf to who knows what's next, you know, but she's a trooper. And we do the best we can because we both work. We both have our own goals. At the same time, we both know that we have these 4 boys that we got to raise into men. Yeah. So we kind of just see a need, meet a need, and then we have our check-ins, you know what I mean? But the biggest thing about that is making sure she knows that she's number one. Yeah. We put a lot into our kids, and she's helped me realize, like, love language is a big deal. You got to understand that. If you don't, you're going to have a rough go. And she's really good at that. She's been really good.
Cool. So how do you set a time for just you and her? Because you have 4 boys, all teenagers, pretty much. Yeah. A couple still in the single digits. Well, but
Huddy thinks he's 16 going on 7. He thinks he knows everything. Well, that's a very good question. And sometimes I don't do a very good job of that. Sometimes I'm very task oriented. If you make it on my list of things to do, you sure as hell can bank it's going to get done. But that's not sexy to a woman, being a list, being a checklist thing like, hey, babe, I'll check in with you at 3:30 when I'm done. Like, you got to be more like,
a little more romantic with it, right?
yeah, that's a good way of putting it, but hell, I'll bet you I strike out with that too. You know what I mean? Like, there's things I do really well. That one, not so much, but just make her feel like a priority. Check-ins, random texts and calls, things like that, even when things are chaotic and busy, and out of town, make sure you just send her, hey, do miss you. Yeah. And, words of affirmation with her. But she's more of she loves quality time. So a dedicated date night with her, or just, hey, I know it's chaotic. We got all 4 boys. I'm going to tell them that you and I are checked out. Mom and dad are off duty on a Wednesday, and give her an hour and a half. That would fill her buckets to the rim.
Oh, good.
So stuff like that.
Yeah. You guys vacation a lot too, right?
We try.
Yeah.
Yeah. She likes to vacation. We vacation well.
Yeah.
So if there's things that we do well, that would be in the top 5. I'm very good at vacationing. Yeah. But yeah, we like to do that just to check out, because without that type of focus on each other and just checking out, you can get caught up in the day-to-day. You can get caught up in, like you said, being goal-oriented, being A-type people. We get caught up a lot in that. And so that's an opportunity for us to just check out, come back together, make sure we're on the same page, rebuild the most important thing, which is our relationship. Yeah. Because, it's a lot now, but man, I'm really excited for phase 2. Like, to get these kids out of the house and go and vacation, experience the world with my wife, my best friend. Like, I'm real excited for that. But I got to accomplish this goal first to get there. But I can't lose sight of what we're doing. You know what I mean? Got to have check-ins. You got to do stuff like that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, check-ins are a big deal. We do, we normally do something where we used to be better at it, but it's a good thing to do, is we just kind of like, as soon as I get home from work, we just shut everything out, and her and I go talk for 10 minutes.
Oh, good for you.
It's a good way for us to, and we just kind of talk about whatever, like sometimes, like I actually hate talking about my day, right? Unless something exciting happens, but like, I don't know. Some people think my life is exciting. I don't generally, right? So like, if I talk to this person today, like for example, NBA quotes, right? People love that I do those things. Yeah. I barely have anything to do with it. My company does it, right? My employees talk to the end client, which is normally their operations people. So it's not like Golden State's one of our best clients, right? It's not like I talk to the players ever, right? Actually never talk to them. And so, but like people get really mystified by how cool that is. So when I come home with Michelle, if I'm like, yeah, we landed the Phoenix Suns today, her and I both kind of know it's like, it's just like another client, right? Oh, yeah. So like, and I don't want to downplay that, because bringing those clients on is cool and it's fun and it's good, right, to have more revenue coming in. But at the same time, it's also like, I just don't get that excited about it. So with her, I always want to talk about the kids, or what's up with her, or what she thinks about something, or like, that's where I always want to go with that. And she used to want to like know about my day a lot. And I was just kind of like, so I'd give it to her. I'm like, we're kind of done talking about this. Like, I just work, but like where my passion is coming home. And if you really want to connect with me, let's talk about home more than like what I did all day. Because I just did it. So check. Let's get to the next stuff, right?
Same thing. And I was bad about that when, like I mentioned earlier, we do constant check-ins, and that's kind of what it is, whether it takes an hour, whether it takes 20 minutes, just rubber feet and just talk. And sometimes I really felt like I had nothing to communicate with, nothing to share, but then you commit to it, and then it's just crazy how just the natural flow of things. And then you start talking about real life things, or something that the kids needed, or there's something that they accomplished, or something we'd like to team up on. Yeah. And then those check-ins go a long way, and you feel like you're accomplishing, your partnership, and that you're actually doing it the right way. I mean, parenting's not easy.
No, it's not.
But sometimes I feel like I get a W every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So what do you do for yourself for fun?
That's something you and I have talked about, and I'm terrible about that. I've actually given up everything that I enjoyed. I don't, and it's been long enough now that the phone calls stopped. Like, I used to play city basketball with a bunch of my guys. We play competitive, used to play, softball leagues, things like that. Now, I work out. I go to the gym, hour and a half each day. That's my thing, and that's all I truly have time for. And I'm not sad about it. Like, I'm not missing out.
Like the times and seasons, right?
Yeah.
Where do you work out at?
Just Vasa.
Close to you guys, right?
Yeah. Used to go to Lifetime, realize that's not for me. I'm not big time like you. I don't own the place.
Well, my wife loves the place. I do like Lifetime, don't get me wrong, but like, actually I'm kind of, we're starting to go at 5 a.m. now because I hate going at 6:30 or 6 because it's so freaking busy. And then if I miss it in the morning because I'm busy, then I try and go at night. I can't even go till 6:30 because there's so many damn people there. And I'm about to build a damn gym in the back of my house.
That's what we did. So we built a gym in our garage for Jenna. She loves it.
Yeah.
So I can't talk her into going to the gym with me, but yeah. But I do it just because I'll pop in like wherever I'm at and just get it if I don't have a meeting or something like that. Just because, I mean, time is time. You know, you got to find a way. So it works. You know what I mean? It's just they got them all over. So
what are you looking for in the future the most?
Honestly, time with Jenna. I really like spending time with her. We love to vacation. We have and we have to have a vacation on the docket, because if not, dude, it's hard to go to the gym. It's hard to, like, you know, us big kids realize that we got to make smart choices like 6 times a day. You know what I mean? Every time I drive by a Los Betos, I'm like, ooh, two carne asadas.
I feel hungry. Yeah.
Yeah. 5 rolled tacos with guac and cheese. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
But no, that's going to make me chubby. So we don't do that. But we have to have things like that. And my future is these kids. I just want to see them successful. I want to see them grow up. Like I'm really proud of my 15-year-old. He's made huge accomplishments just in this last year of growing up with athletics and school and, you know, just maturing as a kid. Like, he's a good kid. And so when you stop and you take a look at that stuff, it checks the box. It fills your buckets. It fills that daddy bucket. You know what I mean? That's what you and I have talked about. You know what I mean? If it fills that bucket, that's a good thing. Don't go away from it. Yeah. So those things, just continuing to see my kids successful, you know, continuing to make enough money to provide whatever resources and stuff that they need, but not get caught up in that. Yeah. That's me being successful. That's where my path is leading and what we're doing, and checking in and make sure that I'm doing the best I can along the way, you know? Yeah. And being happy with me, being happy with who I am, like not giving a shit anymore about what other people think, you know, like when you're a loud personality and a high energy dude, it's easy for haters to hate. Yeah. And I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? Because those that know me know that I'm that guy you can call at 3 o'clock in the morning and I'll grab a shovel or a bag, whatever it is. No questions asked. I got you, you know? But those that don't, it's easy. Let them hate, you know, especially with me being who I am on the football field as a coach. Like, I get the most out of my kids. My kids know that I love them and that I'd do anything for them. And people on the other sideline, they think I'm an ass, and they might be right.
Yeah, because you love coaching, right?
I love coaching.
Yeah.
I feel like I was called to be a coach. Like, I love it. It's hard for my marriage because there's so much time and commitment going to it. But now we've had a few check-ins, and we've come more on the same page about that, and we're both committed. But I love it because what's another way that you can truly impact these kids and make a difference in their lives? Coaches. You know what I mean? Like, I'll bet you have memories of a specific time and a coach that impacted you that nobody else could. Like, even parents can't touch. And the fact that I can do both, make memories with my kids, you know, check the box on a lot of those things we talked about my goals of making these kids men, leadership skills, you know, being just good kids and being like nice and just being understanding and just being a friend, whatever it is, you can learn those things on the court, on the field. And there's so much in like learning. People are so soft on these kids nowadays. It's like they're afraid to push. You know what I mean? But no, kids are resilient. You give them the tools and the resources and the mentality that they can accomplish anything, they'll run through a wall.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And that's the kind of coach that I feel like I am, is that, you know, I reward these kids as much as I am get on them.
It's an interesting responsibility being a coach. Because you actually take on like a coach, a mentor, sometimes a father figure, and sometimes a friend, right? Like a lot. There was, last time I coached was a year ago, not last season, but a year before, right? And I had like 3 kids that would call me dad, right? and to be honest, I felt a little uncomfortable with it, if you want to know the truth, because they had dads, right? Of course. So, but it was always like, but it was also an honor to be called that. You know, these kids were like 10, if I remember right. And so I just kind of played that role, you know, and I was like, yeah, what's up, man, blah, blah, blah. I was always pumping them up because I knew the coach that I was with, great coach, we won a championship, right? Like they were intense with the boys and pushed them a lot. And I knew for me, I wanted to sit right in the middle of like, have fun with them, be a good example to them, and then still push. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's a good role inside of there where I never wanted to be the fun coach. I wanted them to have fun when they were with me, but also still working very hard to doing exactly what we needed. Because it drives me crazy when they're not paying attention, right? Especially if they're on like the second team or whatever, and they let the head coach kind of do his thing. So I always kind of kept them together, kept everyone's nose pointed north, and just kind of like rolled with that. And it served well. And I also spent the time with my own son, right? It was awesome. It's hard. You can't get that time back.
Yeah.
And it's also a shit ton of time.
Oh, for sure.
It's like 3 hours a night.
Oh, for sure.
Screw Saturdays.
Yeah. Hardest part is for the wifey. You know what I mean? She's like, damn, you're gone all the time. Like, and like, how much are you gonna pay for this? I'm actually donating all this time.
Yeah, actually nothing.
Actually spending time and money on these kids in the program. But you know where I think coaches go wrong is a lot of them just assume they have to yell all the time and they have to break the kids down. Yeah. That's not true. You got to rebuild these kids. Like, yes, like you said, there is a fine line between being the fun coach and being the grumpy coach that's just yelling all the time. Mm-hmm. There's things that maybe elevating your voice a little bit does get through the kids, but it's more of just the confidence.
Yeah.
If the kids are confident that you're teaching them the right way to do it and that you believe in them, dude, they'll do amazing things.
And you're supposed to be the leader, right? When you're a coach, you're the leader. And the best way to get your men to follow you is for them to respect you. Mm-hmm. That's it, right? And the coaches that yell a lot, I feel like they got the fear kind of going on. And sure, you can get the kids to fear you a little bit, and there's a little bit of respect in there. But if you really want that team to be cohesive, they need to respect every single coach. Yeah. And if they have that respect, then you can do a lot of stuff with those guys. Yeah.
My check-ins was when I blow that whistle and I tell them hats on and we start practice and these kids, and then they're accomplishing amazing things. Like the techniques and the things that we were doing was awesome. You know, our playbook was a high school playbook, and we're talking 11-year-old kids. It was awesome. But then the checkpoint is as soon as we got that break at the end of practice and we do like a little fun thing, all of a sudden you see these kids are just acting fools of each, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's how normal 10 and 11-year-old kids act. But the fact is that they understood as soon as I blew the whistle, it was like the mentality shifted. Yeah. And they're like, we're with coach. We have a purpose. We're here for a reason. I mean, I always called it, hey, let's go to work. We're at the office. Yeah. Put in work. Let's go. Like, we're here for a purpose. This is our job, right? We treat it like a business, right? Like on away games. All right, this is a road trip. This is a business trip. What are we here for? So remind them of what it is and make them goal-oriented and hold them accountable. And we've had a lot of success. We've accomplished amazing things and influenced these kids on another level. You know, that's the greatest thing is when parents come up and they're like, man, my kid loves playing for you. You should hear how he talks about it, or the way he talked about his football experience coming from other teams and other programs. And they're just over the moon about how the kids got more confidence in all aspects, and it bleeds over to this and bleeds over to that. And they're doing good at school, and they're now leaders at the grade school and things like that. Makes me like, feel like, yeah, I'm doing my job. Yeah. You know, cause it's not just one hat. You know what I mean? Like I was talking to you, I'm like, you wear so many hats all the time. Does it get confusing? It does. Yeah. But when you have things like that and moments like that, you know, you're not spread too thin, you're doing it right, and you're being successful at it. That's huge. Yeah. You know what I mean? Makes you feel good about yourself. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're like, all right, maybe I'm not, flying this broken umbrella, into a shitstorm. Right. You know
exactly.
Like maybe
you'll win every now and again.
Exactly. Yeah. Sometimes there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm not doing so bad.
Well, cool, my friend. We're at the end.
Appreciate it.
So I need your best advice.
My best advice for what? Men, for dads, for people? Be you. The number one thing before you can change and influence anybody for the better or for the worse is you got to know who you are. You got to know what makes you tick. You got to be confident in your skin, because if you're fake, that only lasts for a minute, and then people will break down that shell and they'll realize who you are. If you're, scared, if you're, fake it till you make it guy. Oh, I hate that saying. I hate that. Don't fake shit. Be you. Whether you don't know the information, then surround yourself with people who do know and have the answers, and absorb it. Don't just be an idiot. You know what I mean? So be who you are, be comfortable in your skin, and that will shine, and you'll be the best version of you. Without that, you'll never accomplish your ceiling, and you'll never get there. That'd be my advice to people.
Yeah. No,
Not be the right advice, but it's something. You know what I mean?
It's absolutely the right advice.
It's definitely not going to be on a bumper sticker, but you know.
Well, awesome, dude. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast. I was excited to have you on.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.